Herr Sturm's story was the oddest and most intertwined of them all. He was of average height, well-built, had brown eyes that matched his long mess of brown hair, and was of an almost scarily imaginative mind. He was one of the integral members in the creation of the Spectral Sapphire, as well as the sole person who was responsible for cleaning up the mess the Sapphire left in its wake. After using up all of the Crystal Gauntlet's power to clean up said mess, he returned to his home in the suburban outskirts of the Aziv district, in the hopes of finally resting after all the events that had plagued his life thus far. But he couldn't rest. There was still a possibility itching at the back of his mind that maybe Barry wasn't the worst thing the Shadow Realm could have thrown at Zendo. So he did what he did best. He picked up the Sacred Texts, a book filled with the expansive history and prophecies of Zendo, and began reading. As it turns out, Herr Sturm was right. According to the Sacred Texts, there was a second war that engulfed Zendo, not too long after Impera's empire had fallen. A dimensional rift opened in the catacombs beneath the Drevny castle, one that led directly to the Shadow Realm. Out of the rift came many creatures. Some were Krampus, some were a reptilian race imbued with elemental magic. But most were creatures of pure shadows, and leading them was Nizagal, deity of darkness and ruler of the Shadow Realm. Thanks to the testimonies of Impera and every other Zendian creature that had been banished to the Shadow Realm, Nizagal had learned of the realms that existed outside of his own, realms that could, and in Nizagal's eyes, must be conquered. The forces of darkness quickly and mercilessly laid siege over Zendo, and would have completely drowned the realm in darkness if it weren't for 9 heroes who rose up to fight back. Each hero commanded a specific element of Zendian existence: fire, stone, water, air, plant life, electricity, sound, imagination, and reality. Together, these 9 heroes turned the tide of war in Zendo's favor, beating back the forces of darkness in the Kolad Tundra, and nearly vanquishing them all. Nizagal retreated back to the rift beneath Drevny Castle, but before he could enter it, the 9 heroes combined their powers to trap him in an elemental seal. This, unfortunately, came at a price, as all but one of them were turned into small stones as a result. These stones later became known as the Cobalt Stones. They were dispersed across Zendo, and for good reason. If all 8 were reassembled and used at Nizagal's final resting place, the seal could, in theory, be broken. At this discovery, Herr Sturm was flabbergasted. If he had been powerless to stop Barry, how could he possibly be able to do anything about a creature of darkness, let alone the deity of it? After much thought over the matter, Herr Sturm came to the decision that if there were items out there that could allow such a dangerous being to be freed, it'd at least be good to start to know where they are. Just like he always did with matters he knew little to nothing about, he consulted the Sacred Texts, and what he found were the blueprints designed by the architects themselves of a suit of armor designed to harness the power of the Cobalt Stones.
It's not exactly what I need,
Herr Sturm thought,
but at least it's a start.
He spent the next better half of a year working to create the Cobalt armor, extracting Zendian plasma, the most powerful and versatile substance in the realm, hardening it into a malleable metal, and shaping the suit to fit his form. Herr Sturm then spent the next few weeks testing the suit's capabilities, and although it felt quite intuitive and powerful, something felt missing. It wasn't until another ordinary day of testing that Herr Sturm found out what it was. He was testing the flight capabilities of the armor, which worked by a gravity aura activating around the suit, allowing it to hover and glide. The first test caused Herr Sturm to crash into the ceiling of the shed, and when he looked around after falling to the floor, he found something new, something he hadn't seen before. It was a science stone, glowing with energy. Herr Sturm picked up the stone, then seeing a socket on the forehead of the armor's helmet that appeared to fit the stone. When he placed the stone inside, Herr Sturm felt a surge of energy course through his being. He felt the imagination he already held expand exponentially, and along with it came the knowledge of the Cobalt Stones and their history. He now knew the name of each one and what they gave to the holder, yet their location still eluded him. Herr Sturm intended on fixing that, traveling far and wide across Zendo for where the other 7 stones may be resting. He found plenty of places that one would expect them to be, shrines and whatnot, yet they were always empty. The only one he ever came back home with was the one he had first found, the Sagacity stone. However, even that would change. One evening, after another long day of searching for the stones, Herr Sturm came home, tired. He took off the helmet of his armor and retired to his office to read. He did this every night, but this time he was interrupted by a ruckus coming from elsewhere in his home. He quickly went to the ruckus's origin, arriving just in time to see what was causing it. A purple creature about half his height, made up of gelatinous material, with 3 tendrils on each side of its head and mechanical hands, pulling the Sagacity stone from the helmet it was attached to.
Hey!
Shouted Herr Sturm.
Put that down!
But it didn't put the stone down. Instead, it chortled, flying out the window it had opened to enter from. Herr Sturm put the helmet back on, quickly taking flight after the thief, who noticed that it was being chased. In response, the creature sent a barrage of fireballs Herr Sturm's way, one of which successfully knocked him out of the air. When he got back up, Herr Sturm found that around him were 7 other people, all of them out of breath and looking toward the thief.